Today, I put my title as the Weird Games self-proclaimed, undisputed internet champion on the line against the dastardly challenger, Jeff from Defective Dice. Who'll come out on top? It's up to you. Watch both videos, link to come later. Let's get ready to rumble! Finally! Welcome to Corner Case, the channel for the 0.5% elite cream of the crop wargamers. You're in the hobby corner with me, your host, your weird game self-proclaimed, undisputed internet champion, and your girl's best friend that she told you not to worry about, Deck. Before we get started, I just wanted to say, Jeff, if that really is your name, brother, I take no pleasure in this conflict, daddy. I just do what I have to for this great community, for this great channel that is Corner Case, and I take no pleasure in it, but I will do what I have to, and you're going down, brother. So a quick overview of what we are doing today. We are doing a tier list, Defective Dice. Jeff also is doing one, Night of Nightmare boxes and Rotten Harvests, with the exception of the Rasputina, Chris Masputina box, as that is technically a twisted alternative box, but that's in the mix. We are doing whole sets only. We are not doing individual models. The grading scale is purely subjective, but you'll see that, for me, like A and S tier, it can't just like only be aesthetics. It's got to be like bring a little something extra. And the tiers are as follows: monument to mediocrity, C tier, B tier, A tier, and then finally S tier. One last thing before we start the show, just want to say thank you to everyone who's been supporting the channel on Discord, in the comments, and especially our Patreon supporters. I know it's been a rough year for the channel with my life events, but I really want to thank everyone for sticking it out with us and continuing to support the channel. To start us off in the Monument to Mediocrity tier, it's the Herald of Obliteration box, and it feels a little mean to say this, but at the same time, I think what ended up happening is, this box just has an alternate sculpt for Tara and Karina, which leads me to believe that at the time that this was made, nowadays we have Nightmare Edition, we have Rotten Harvest, we have Twisted Alternatives. We have the Easter thing. We have names for all the specific types of alternative models, but I think perhaps when this was made, Nightmare Edition was just kind of like the general term for alternate sculpt. So to be fair, that's probably what happened, but in the context of today, tier listing today, it doesn't hold up against another Nightmare Edition boxes. I'm sorry, but something had to go in this category. Next, in C tier. Now, first off, we're putting Toil and Trouble in here. Nothing personal. I'm just not like a big fan of the haggy witch kind of vibes. Next, 2022's Legend Reforged in C tier. Personally, it looks kind of cool, but I just don't need fantasy in my Malifaux. That's a personal choice that I've made. But probably my biggest gripe is the box. It doesn't really feel like a full-fledged Nightmare Edition. It kind of feels like there were minor tweaks done, but the overall art direction doesn't feel as punch in the face as like some of the other stuff. So for those reasons, C tier, Legends Reforged. And following this trend, that's right, this year's Reap and Sow. I know a lot of people are excited for this box. It does look cool, but again, personal preference. I don't need Malifaux to have fantasy in it. I will say the box looks a lot better to me than Legend Reforged. I think it's got a lot more juice. A lot more flavor juice, so there's that. But C tier. I don't like fantasy in Malifaux. That's my problem. And then some of you in the comments are gonna tell me that fantasy Malifaux is fantasy, but it's not like trad. You know what I'm saying? It's not trad. B tier. If the box was in B tier, it probably means it looks super cool to me, but I might not see more significance beyond the cool aesthetics. First, it's alive! This is, for me, definitely a solid entry into the Rotten Harvest series. I'm excited about it. I want to get it. But beyond, like, the cool looks, I just don't see, like, the cultural significance. Just, like, a cool Next ad, very on brand, B tier. Deepest depths. So I actually love underwater. If there's anything I want more of in my Malifaux and other games, it's underwater, absolutely. But deepest depths, I just think it looks cool, not much else, so B tier. And lastly, the wild ones. Now I want to say when this came out, this production value seemed pretty sick, but it's in B tier because over time, what I feel like I've come to realize from this box is that it's not like it actually fits right into your regular Malifaux game. Like you could be playing Malifaux with someone and they wouldn't know that you were playing the Nightmare box if they like didn't know your crew already, because this looks like not that unique to Malifaux. So for those reasons, even though if you asked me 5 years ago, Wild Ones would have been A tier for me. In the context of what's come out in the last 5 years, some stiff competition. I would say Wild Ones B tier now in the year of our Lord 2023. Here it is, A tier. If a box made it into A tier, in my opinion, not only does it look cool, but it brings a little something extra to the table. Curiosity killed the cat. Now, I will say that, asked me 5 years ago, and I didn't think too much of this box, but now I kind of feel like fielding an army of cats is sick by itself, and then there's concept. And by that I mean if you field a mirror match, Hamlin versus Hamlin here, you get cats versus mice. And so for concept, this is an A tier. Witches and woes. What can I say? This box has real magnetism. When people see these painted models online, when they see you playing them, people want to buy this box. It just looks cool all around, and it's Pandora. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first Rotten Harvest box in the style that we know it now. So, kind of like the great grandmammy pappy of what we know to be Rotten Harvest. So cultural significance on top of great magnetism, A tier, solid. And lastly, Brine and Bones. I'm going to say that I don't think this one has concept or big cultural splash, but Brine and Bones just looks super, super cool to me. So cool that it pushed itself into A tier, despite my pretension. So Brine and Bones on the back of cool factor, A tier for me. And lastly, S tier. Yes, actually, the bulk of my list is in S tier because I'm such a shill for weird. For me, S tier looks awesome and has pretty important cultural significance, in my opinion. Chris Masputina, let's start things off with my girl, Raspy. So not only is this just the coolest, we don't even have to talk about how cool it is because it's so obvious, it is the first to it's the first to use the Twisted Alternatives name scheme, if I'm not wrong. It also has kind of that manufacturing issue that came up that limited the supply. So there's a little bit of a scarcity surrounding it. And then on top of that, I think it was the first holiday themed box. So just on top of being a sick alternative crew that you use during the holiday season, it also has a ton of mystique around it, has a ton of cultural significance around it, historical weird significance. S tier, Chris Masputina, totally not biased. Dark Carnival. Wow. This is the elder statesman of Nightmare Edition boxes. I will go as far as to say that the Dark Carnival box it's goated. This is, if I don't have a goat tier, but this is the goat, is the Dark Carnival box. And I'll say that because look, it looks cool. Obviously it looks cool. In what other game, besides Malifaux, are you fielding a circus, an actual circus crew? That's already sick by itself, Then there's the concept of if you field a mirror match, Colette versus Dark Carnival box, Mr. Cooper, what do you get? You get magician cabaret performer girls versus a circus. So that's a sick mirror match together. So I believe that Dark Carnival established the precedent for the level of execution that we see today. It's a brand new plastic kit at the time. It's not only gender and flavor swapped every character in the box. You know, the box itself has like a unique flavor compared to like a normal box. So everything that we know as like a Malifaux cool limited alternate edition box, you know, we see that in Dark Carnival. So, you know, this is the elder statesman, not the grandpappy, but the elder statesman of like what we know to be cool. And on top of that, you know, having come up in Malifaux second edition, you know, I really see the Dark Carnival box as like, if somebody had this box and it was painted up, it was cool. Like if you had Dark Carnival, you were it, guy. Like you were the cream of the crop, as we'll say. So Dark Carnival, owning it, having it painted, automatically makes you goated. This box is goated. Absolutely solid S tier above all else. Dark Carnival's my goat. Unicorn vomits and pixie farts. Wow, this box is so irreverent. And I'll say that this box is super important to what I think is like Malifaux or like weird community culture. You know, because like who does that to their brand? You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine like a Space Marine box coming out as like, I don't know, like legitimately like not just chibis, but like something a little bit dumb. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I don't even know what Warhammer would do to like match this, you know? But they're taking, you know, they're taking the piggy box and they're turning it into unicorns and pixies, and that's awesome. You know, like the color saturation, you're never gonna see this type of crew and not realize that it's a Nightmare Edition box. It's just so out of place in the world around itself, and it's like, you know, very polarizing. I'm sure some people love it and some people hate it, but I doubt that there's any like indifference to this box. This box grabs you by the neck and says, look at me, and also form an opinion. And for that reason, you know, what this means to me in terms of Malifaux community culture, this Pixie Farts box, absolutely S tier. Dead Justice, okay, this box is absolutely the grand pappy of, you know, a Nightmare Edition crew. I understand, yes, there were like Nightmare Edition models, you know, that we didn't go over, for example, like Dreamer / Chompy Bits, but this right here is like the grand pappy in terms of like a whole crew being executed, you know, to a theme. So Dead Justice, and I mean, I still think it's cool to this day. I mean, I don't own this box, and I will say that like I would keep an eye out for it, and I would own it if I were ever to see it. But this right here, for the Malifaux collector, I would say is absolutely a must-have. For the Nightmare aficionado, as I do consider myself, absolutely a must-have. Dead Justice, not goated, grandpappy status. Next, and you'll see the bulk of my list is an S tier. Next, Dia de los Muertos, S tier. Why? Because this again is just like something that you don't see in war games. Like, when are you going to see this in war games? Like, executed in perfect style. The box, the graphic design, the design of the models, the way you have to paint the models because of the difference in style. It offers a completely unique experience within the wargaming sphere. I don't know what else to say. I mean, besides the fact that it's also kind of like putting eyes on another culture's holiday, and what I think is like a positive way. You know, this is absolutely an S tier box. Love Dia de los Muertos. And lastly, the 1988 Malifaux Mayfang box. Oh my goodness, this was like, oh, when I saw that this had came out during my lapse in playing Malifaux, and I thought that there was a possibility I could never get it. Ew, you best believe I was stressed out, sweating. This is such a cool box, and nobody ever thought that they needed or wanted cyberpunk in their Malifaux, just like I was kind of critical earlier about fantasy in my Malifaux, but oh my goodness, the sculpts just look so cool, and the concept art, the art on the box, the way they did kind of like a manga, the black and white style, added so much to the presentation of this product. The 1988 Malifaux box is one where if you're into it, you immediately need to snatch it up, and it's got that magnetism, it's got that panache. S tier 1988. So here's a summary on screen of my tier list. Take a good look, take a screenshot, because if you haven't seen Defective Dice Jeff's video, Nightmare/Rotten Harvest box tier list yet, then you should go to do that and compare his list with mine, and go to the Google Doc link in the description to place your vote on whose nightmare list is better. Either that villain Defective Dice Jeff, or me, your Weird Games self-proclaimed undisputed internet champion. Woo! Acknowledge me. So I did make this belt myself, and if Jeff wins, then I'll actually mail him the title. But you, as an audience, you do realize that by Jeff winning, you would just be perpetuating further conflict, as I would have to schedule a rematch or find a way to get a rematch from him to win my title back. At any rate, go watch his video if you haven't already, and absolutely leave comments telling him what you really feel. For example, what? Like that. You know what I mean? He's like, my S tier is, and you say, what? Thank you again for watching this video and spending time with me, your host, your Weird Games self-proclaimed undisputed internet champion, and your girl's best friend, who she told you not to worry about. Thank you one last time to our supporters on Patreon. If you enjoyed what we're throwing down, please like, subscribe, also comment, join the Discord or the Patreon. We super appreciate you. And not only that, we'll see you next time.